Beneath the dense forests and sweeping jungles of the Americas, hidden away from the modern world, lie monuments of ancient power and mystery. These colossal structures, many of which even predate the Great Pyramids of Egypt, stand as silent testaments to the ingenuity of early civilizations. But who built them and why? In South America, the monumental stonework of Caral-Supe and Tiwanaku baffles archaeologists even today. In Central America, the Maya, Olmec, and Aztecs left behind towering temples, intricately carved stones, and colossal heads. Works of engineering that seem impossible for their time. And in North America, the earthen mounds of Poverty Point and Cahokia form sprawling complexes that stretch across the landscape. These remarkable structures share a common thread. They were built without the wheel, without industrial metal tools, and without our modern understanding of the world. Yet they continue to stand, defying time and the elements. They hold within them the stories of people whose cultures once flourished. What drove these ancient peoples to construct such awe-inspiring monuments? And what secrets do these megaliths still hold? Join me as we explore the megalithic architecture of ancient America and discover its beautiful stonework of a distant past. By at least 20,000 years ago, people were living in the Americas. They were nomads who most likely traveled from Siberia, either by foot or by boat. They were hunter-gatherers who migrated far and wide to find herds of prey or patches of berries for sustenance. Their groups were small, but they packed a punch, eventually developing into cultures like the Clovis culture and other uniquely American peoples. I'll leave a link to my video on the Clovis culture in the description if you want to check it out. Because of their nomadic lives, they were content with never settling in one specific location. It wouldn't have made sense to. These Paleo-Indians were adapted both socially and technologically, to migrating for their food. By 5,000 years ago, and even older in some places, agricultural societies began to flourish in the Americas. This marked the shift from nomadic hunter-gatherers to permanent settlements. In the highlands of Mesoamerica, for example, the Maya and Olmec started constructing impressive cities, while the Indian civilizations, like those at Caral, also began creating monumental architecture. It is the megalithic architecture of these post-hunter-gatherer societies that we'll be looking at today. Megalithic architecture generally refers to large stoneworks and comes in many forms, including single, freestanding monuments like the Olmec heads we'll discuss later, and even larger structures consisting of countless stone blocks. Such stoneworks can be found all across the Americas, and it'd be impossible to fit them all in one video. Therefore, I'll be focusing on a select few of the most intriguing examples. If, by the end, I miss something you really want to learn about, leave a comment below so I know it's something you'll want me to make a video on in the future. Let's begin our search in South America and slowly make our way north. Peru is home to some of the most iconic megalithic architecture in the world. It is also home to some of the oldest. Caral, located in the Supe Valley, is sometimes called the cradle of South American civilization, or the first urban center of the Americas. The ruins of this once thriving city can be found about 23 kilometers inland from the coast, sitting on a terrace above the Supe River floodplain. If you were to visit Caral, you'd first notice the arid landscape with what looks like rising dirt mounds from afar. As you approached and got closer, you'd notice that these aren't dirt hills, but hills made of stone. A combination of natural erosion and archaeological excavations have exposed the underlying architecture of these mounds, showing that they are more than just mounds. They are more like pyramids. In the center of Caral, we find 6 of these large structures. The biggest is known as the Pyramid Mayor. Its base measures 160 by 150 meters. It's about 18 meters in height, and it has a volume of about 200,000 cubic meters. Archaeological testing determined that it took took 2 construction phases to build it. The smallest of the 6 mounds measures 60 by 45 meters and is 10 meters in height, still bigger than half of an American football field. Excavations have found that these stoneworks were likely residential buildings, as represented by the presence of domestic trash. Additionally, this central hub includes features indicative of communal, governmental, or ceremonial purposes. They come in the form of sunken circular plazas. According to archaeologist Ruth Solis, whose work is focused on this site, Caral also appears to mark the initiation of an architectural complex that combines the platform mound and associated sunken circular plaza. This ceremonial complex is common in the archaeological record of Peru for several thousand years. The construction of these mounds and plazas consisted of stone, retaining walls, and fill material. The retaining walls are made up of cut stone, while the fill material is a combination of cut stone rubble and river cobbles. The retaining walls were built first, then the fill was transported in using mesh shikra bags and placed within the walls. It's long gone now, but at the time of occupancy, the retaining walls would have been finished with layers of colored plaster. Solis has also conducted radiocarbon dating at the site, showing it's around 4,000 years old. Others suggest the construction could have started as early as 5,000 years ago, predating the pyramids of Egypt. At this time, agriculture in the Supe Valley was still developing, but Caral's economy is believed to have thrived on fishing and maritime resources. This idea, known as the Maritime Foundations of Andean Civilization hypothesis, suggests that rich coastal fisheries provided the surplus needed to sustain urban life. Excavations at Caral reveal large quantities of fish remains, including anchovies and sardines, which were dried and traded inland. In return, the coastal communities received cotton from the valley, essential for making fishing nets that boosted maritime productivity. This exchange between coastal fisheries and inland cotton cultivators created a robust trade network, supporting the construction of Caral's monumental architecture. While crops like squash and beans were grown, marine resources likely formed the economic backbone. So contrary to what I just told you about agriculture being a prerequisite for this sort of settlement, Caral represents an exception to that rule. Its rise demonstrates how trade and innovation, not just agriculture, could have driven the growth of early civilizations in the Americas. If Caral is the cradle of Peruvian civilization and architecture, then Machu Picchu is its crown jewel, a breathtaking testament to the heights of Inca engineering, artistry, and architectural mastery. Machu Picchu, tucked in the Andes of Peru, stands as one of the most awe-inspiring and iconic remnants of the Inca Empire. It's perched high in the Andes at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level. Built in the 15th century during the reign of Emperor Pachacuti, this mountaintop citadel is a marvel of engineering and architectural ingenuity, blending seamlessly with the surrounding landscape. Hidden from the Spanish conquistadors and only rediscovered in 1911 by Hiram Bingham, Machu Picchu remains shrouded in mystery. Its method of construction is debated, yet its beauty and significance are undeniable. What's most notable about the architecture at this site is its combination of size and precision. Mostly consisting of limestone and granites, the largest stones weigh multiple tons and stand as tall as 13 feet. Despite their size, they were quarried, transported, and fitted with remarkable precision, demonstrating advanced masonry skills and engineering prowess. Some of Machu Picchu's most notable features include the many terraces constructed along the mountain slopes. These were often used for maize agriculture by the Inca, who developed irrigation and drainage systems with layers of stone, gravel, and sand to soak up large amounts of rainfall. This made the soil more fertile and less prone to erosion. Then come the stone structures themselves. The Temple of the Sun is one of these, and it has a semicircular design with carefully cut trapezoidal windows that align with the sun during key solar events. The solstice window, for example, was aligned with the 15th century June solstice sunrise. It's believed that the Temple of the Sun was used only by the priest and Inca ruler as an observatory. The Intihuatana stone was one of the most important stone monuments to the Inca. It was shaped from a single stone and acted as a place of ritual, where they believe it held the sun in its place along its annual path in the sky. When looking at these monuments, in addition to the ruins of domestic buildings, it is not obvious that Machu Picchu consists of one homogeneous architectural style. There seem to be three qualitatively distinct styles, which could indicate a chronology of three cultural periods, with the Inca only representing the most recent. The first style, sometimes referred to as Hanan Pacha, encompasses the monolithic stones like the Intihuatana stone. These were carved from single, large pieces of granite, shaped directly from the mountain's natural rock formations. The second describes the common architecture many Inca sites are known for. These structures are composed of numerous massive stone blocks that have been shaped and precisely fitted to one another with no mortar. Termed Cyclopean-style masonry, these often irregularly shaped stones interlock in a puzzle-like fashion, making the structures both flexible and resilient to the earthquake-prone geography of the area. Lastly is the stonework most solidly attributable to the Inca, consisting of smaller, rough stones laid in irregular courses with mortar joints. Similar to how archaeologists find layers of soil that date to different time periods, with the uppermost layers being the youngest, we see a similar trend in Inca architecture. It appears, in many cases, that the styles build upon each other, as if a later culture was building on and around the remnants of an older culture. Look again at the Temple of the Sun, for example. There's a clear distinction between the modified monolithic stone at the center and base of the structure and the mortarless stonework built around it. This distinction is even more noticeable with the rough, mortared masonry built upon monoliths and mortarless stonework. All of these styles are traditionally attributed to the Inca, but we cannot rule out the idea that the Inca were the most recent culture to iterate upon more archaic structures. We also don't know for sure how the Inca, or whoever, built such precise architecture with mortarless stonework. Traditionally, it's believed that they simply used chisels and stone-on-stone grinding until the final product emerged through trial and error. Some South American archaeologists, like Ed Barnhart, suggest the possible use of acid to melt the stones into shape, but this is just a theory for now. Between the antiquity of Caral-Supe and the sheer mystery of Machu Picchu, Peru remains one of the most important places for understanding the emergence and development of societies and their large stone structures. And it's now time to shift our focus to Mesoamerica. But first, if you find this stuff fascinating, which I'm sure you do if you're still watching, make sure to subscribe for future content just like this. Also, a link to my free newsletter is in the description. Upon signing up, you'll receive my free archaeology cheat sheet to help you navigate with your own personal interest in archaeology. Now let's jump back in. The Olmec represent the earliest widespread civilization in Mesoamerica that engaged in large stoneworks. Often regarded as the quote-unquote mother culture of Mesoamerica, the Olmec primarily occupied what is now Mexico, along the Gulf Coast from around 1600 to 400 BC. One of their most striking contributions to megalithic architecture is the series of colossal stone heads, some reaching over 10 feet in height and weighing up to 40 tons. These heads, carved from basalt, are believed to depict rulers or deities, characterized by their flat noses, thick lips, and distinctive helmets. The effort required to quarry, transport, and carve these massive stones clearly demonstrates the Olmec's advanced organizational and engineering skills. The Olmec heads were primarily quarried from basalt deposits in the Sierra de los Tuxtlas Mountains, particularly near the modern-day town of San Andres Tuxtla in Veracruz. The problem is that these quarries are about 50 miles away from where many of the stone heads are located. Without help from animal labor or industrial technology, moving these stones with sheer human physicality seems like an impossible feat. This journey may have involved dragging the stones with ropes and wooden sleds, or floating them down rivers on rafts. But we really don't have a solid understanding of their method of transportation. All we know for sure is that the scale and complexity of this operation highlights the Olmec's advanced logistical capabilities and collective labor organization. Key Olmec centers like La Venta and San Lorenzo also feature monumental platforms, pyramids, massive earthen mounds, and even ball courts, suggesting the early development of ceremonial complexes and cultural activities that would influence later Mesoamerican societies. At La Venta, a massive rectangular pyramid, the largest of its kind in the region, dominates the site, while intricately carved altars display motifs of jaguars, serpents, and human figures. The colossal heads, along with their pyramids, reflect a society that valued monumental art and architecture. As the earliest known Mesoamerican civilization to produce such large-scale stoneworks, the Olmecs set the foundation for the monumental traditions that would flourish in the later Maya and Aztec cultures. The work of Ed Barnhart, who I mentioned briefly earlier, has really sparked my interest in Maya architecture, so I wanted to start by exploring the site he's brought a lot of attention to lately. It's called Palenque, and it's nestled in the dense jungles of Chiapas, Mexico. Barnhart led the Palenque Mapping Project, which entailed the most extensive documentation of this ancient city to date. From 250 to 900 AD, Palenque acted as a major capital of the Maya civilization. Because of the mapping project, we now have a more accurate understanding of this capital's urban architecture and the accompanying implications for its social complexity. Barnhart and his team surveyed 220 hectares over 18 months. In doing so, they recorded 1,481 structures and 16 kilometers of terracing, all with an accuracy of within 20 centimeters. This profoundly expanded upon the previously known 329 structures. They range from residential structures to palaces and ball courts. All within 2.2 square kilometers, Palenque is the third most dense city of the Maya civilization. The city's population density was estimated to be between 1,885 and 2,827 people per square kilometer. Taking this into consideration, Barnhart argues that Palenque was one of the most highly urbanized cities of the Maya classic period. He goes on to say, "It is in public works that Palenque shows its strongest evidence of urbanism. The importance of Palenque's public works cannot be overstated. Major city resources were expended not on the glorification of the polity and not in the central precinct of the site. Great amounts of labor and resources were spent on terraces and canals outside of the center. These major constructions seem to have focused on opening and securing habitable land within the city. This denotes a civic mindedness at Palenque. Therefore, based on the mapping project survey of this ancient city's urban architecture, we can infer that the investment in public infrastructure represents a focus on improving living conditions for its dense population. Palenque's leaders may have prioritized resource allocation to sustain urban living, reflecting a sophisticated cooperative society. While Palenque's urbanism reflects a tightly packed and cooperative cityscape, Tikal stands as a testament to the sheer scale and dominance of Maya civilization at its height. As one of the largest and most powerful Maya cities, Tikal's sprawling layout, monumental temples, and extensive causeway networks reveal a different approach to urban planning, one characterized by expansive reach and architectural grandeur. The contrast between Tikal and Palenque underscores the diversity of Maya urban centers, each responding to its environment and political landscape in unique ways. Located in what is now Guatemala, Tikal's famous megalithic structures are its 6 major temples, with Temple 1 being one of the most complete examples still standing. Temple 1, also known as the Temple of the Great Jaguar, is situated on the eastern side of Tikal's Great Plaza and was constructed around 734 AD. It was primarily used as the funerary monument for Yasaw Cancoil, one of Tikal's most prominent rulers. The temple stands approximately 47 meters tall and consists of 9 stepped levels, symbolizing the 9 layers of the Maya underworld. This step pyramid design and the small temple at its peak are archetypal elements of Maya architecture. Limestone is the primary construction material used here, largely because of its abundance within the geography of the Yucatan Peninsula. Limestone rubble was used as the fill material to construct the core of the structure. Blocks of it make up the formal outer shell we see today, including the exterior walls and the iconic front steps. Limestone was even broken down into a powder and combined with water and tree sap to create a stucco that would have been applied to the exterior. While we can't see it today due to erosion, the stucco was likely white and red, a color scheme that was associated with the connection between the royals and the sun deity. At its summit is a single-roomed structure capped by a massive roof cone, which served as a sort of crest at the pinnacle of the building and visually extends it even further into the sky. The temple's steep angle and height would have made it a dominant feature of the plaza, reinforcing the power of the ruler interred within it. Inside, elaborate carvings and stucco decorations likely adorned the interior, although much of this has been eroded over time. The tomb beneath the temple contained rich burial offerings, including jade artifacts, ceramics, and intricate polychrome vessels, underscoring the wealth and importance of Cahokia. Temple 1 stands as a stone monument to Tikal's power and the mysteries that still linger within its shadow. While the tomb of Cahokia reveals glimpses of the ruler's life, many questions about the temple's true purpose, the rituals conducted within, and the extent of hidden chambers remain unanswered. As with much of Tikal, the more we uncover, the more we are reminded of how much remains buried beneath the jungle, waiting to reshape our understanding of one of the Maya's most enigmatic cities. The Maya left behind towering pyramids hidden in the jungle, and the Aztecs rose to prominence centuries later, dominating the Valley of Mexico with monumental architecture that mirrored their imperial might. Unlike the secluded rainforest cities of the Maya, the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan stood at the heart of a sprawling lake system, connected by grand causeways and aqueducts. The scale of their temples and the precision of their ceremonial centers reflect the Aztecs' ambition to unite the region under their rule, leaving behind a material record of their engineering prowess and cosmological beliefs. The construction of Tenochtitlan, the main hub of Aztec society, began in 1325, and the city lasted until the Spaniard conquests of 1521. This represents the interestingly short-lived existence of a society with so much historical lore. Known for their militaristic imperialism and human sacrifice rituals, the Aztecs applied impressive engineering skills to construct Tenochtitlan. The geography did not work in their favor. The place they chose to settle was on a small island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, within the Valley of Mexico, which is now mostly dried up. An odd location by our standards, but the Aztecs had their reasons. There, they witnessed an eagle with a snake in its beak on top of a cactus, which for them was a religious signal to establish their settlement. The ground upon which they constructed their city was notoriously marshy and completely submerged in many cases. Through causeways, dikes, and floating gardens, they reshaped the landscape to support a population that may have exceeded 200,000 at its peak, making it the largest pre-Columbian settlement. They often drove wooden posts into the mucky soil to support their buildings and infrastructure. It was a marvel of urban planning and engineering that rivaled many of the great cities across the globe. When looking at the city from above, you would have noticed it was split into 4 districts, radiating from a sacred center. Within that center sat one of the most fascinating stone monuments of the Aztec civilization. Known as Templo Mayor, this pyramid was unique, different from any we've discussed so far. The pyramid standing when the Spanish arrived was actually the 7th iteration of Templo Mayor. 6 earlier temples were built and rebuilt, according to the ruler reigning at the time. The most apparent feature of the most recent iteration, though it is in ruins today, was its dual structure, 2 temples joined as one. Clearly inspired by past Mesoamerican architecture, Templo Mayor was a step pyramid with 4 terraces. Unlike those more ancient temples, however, it had twin stairs leading up to twin shrines at the summit. The shrine to the south was dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and the sun, and symbolized fire and warfare. The shrine to the north was dedicated to Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility. and represented water and agriculture. Those shrines were capped at 60 meters, dominating the Tenochtitlan skyline. With a sacrificial stone in front of the temple of Huitzilopochtli, this pyramid was the ritual site for countless offerings to the gods. Archaeological investigations at the site have uncovered multiple indicators of those rituals. This includes the stone of Cahokia and a chalk mule, both artifacts associated with sacrificial ceremonies. Excavations have also yielded caches of other ceremonial material, as well as some remains of victims sacrificed. Before being systematically destroyed by the Spanish, Aztec architecture reflected the cultural psychology of a population that was unaffected by war and human sacrifice. The grandeur of Templo Mayor, rising at the city's heart, symbolized the dual forces of creation and destruction, i.e. water and fire, that shaped Aztec belief systems. Had the Aztec world been untouched by these darker beliefs, Tenochtitlan's architecture may have looked very different. The city's immense creative potential suggests its political structure and engineering could have been applied to construct a more utopian and enduring metropolis, emphasizing growth, beauty, and the celebration of life. And this leads to a question I have for you. What do you think our architecture says about us today? North American archaeology may be more complex, intricate, and interesting than you think. Those of us who study the prehistory of the continent are already aware of this, but the layperson, who's been desensitized to the stereotypical pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, may be unaware that massive structures comparable to these exist in North America too, though they are qualitatively distinct. We start to see the rise of quote-unquote structures in North America during the Archaic period, which roughly dates from 10,000 to 3,000 years ago. This period follows the Paleo-Indian period and precedes the Woodland period. It's characterized by shifts in climate, increasing regional specialization by these Native Americans, and the development of more diverse stone tools. Unlike the architecture of South and Mesoamerica, the monumental structures of North America honestly aren't megalithic. They rarely consist of large stone architecture. Rather, they are earthen mounds. Some of the earliest mounds are actually accumulations of oyster mollusks or clamshells. Lining the coastal plains and rivers, many of these shell mounds were solely the non-edible refuse from foraging food, while others marked funerary locations. True earthen mounds, made from immense quantities of soil, became prevalent in the eastern woodlands. Some notable examples include sites like Watson Brake and Jaketown. But the two sites I want to focus on here are Poverty Point and Cahokia. Poverty Point, located in northeastern Louisiana, stands as one of the most intriguing archaeological sites in North America. Built by indigenous peoples between 3,700 and 3,100 years ago, this complex predates many of the other monumental constructions on the continent. It represents not only a feat of engineering, but also a testament to the social and cultural complexity of pre-agricultural societies in America. Situated on the Macon Ridge overlooking the Mississippi River floodplain, Poverty Point was elevated, providing a strategic advantage point above seasonal flooding, offering both protection and access to rich resources of the surrounding wetlands. The region's diverse ecosystem, teeming with fish, shellfish, waterfowl, and game, was also advantageous to its inhabitants. The nearby rivers facilitated trade, enabling Poverty Point to become a hub of long-distance exchange networks, though evidence suggests that many more materials were coming in than going out. What makes Poverty Point remarkable is its sheer scale, complexity, and point in time. The site features 6 concentric earthen ridges, each separated by flat plaza-like areas. These ridges form a semicircle, enclosing a vast central plaza. It's believed that wooden structures would have lined the peaks of these ridges. Additionally, several large mounds are scattered around the site, the most impressive being Mound A, which rises over 70 feet and spans nearly 700 feet at its base. In total, the construction required moving approximately 750,000 cubic meters of earth, all accompanied without the use of heavy machinery, domesticated animals, or wheeled transport. The construction of Poverty Point reflects advanced architectural planning and coordination. The symmetrical design and the orientation of the mound suggest that celestial alignments or cosmological beliefs may have influenced its layout. The scale of the project implies that large labor forces were mobilized, indicating sophisticated social organization and the capacity to manage communal projects over extended periods. Poverty Point challenges traditional assumptions about early Native American societies. Typically, large-scale construction is associated with agricultural communities, yet Poverty Point's builders were archaic-era hunter-gatherers. This suggests that social stratification, leadership, and ritual played significant roles in unifying the population for collective construction efforts. The site's design implies ceremonial or religious functions, possibly serving as a pilgrimage center or a focal point for gatherings and trade fairs. Artifacts recovered from Poverty Point reveal extensive trade networks stretching across the eastern woodlands. Materials such as copper from the Great Lakes, stone from the Appalachian Mountains, and shells from the Gulf Coast have all been unearthed here. These artifacts highlight the importance of Poverty Point as a cultural and economic nexus, drawing diverse communities into its sphere of influence. Despite its grandeur, Poverty Point was abandoned. The reasons for this are unclear, but environmental changes, resource depletion, or shifts in trade networks may have contributed to its decline. However, the site's significance endures. In 2014, Poverty Point was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognizing its importance as a symbol of early ingenuity and social complexity in North America. Today, it continues to captivate archaeologists and visitors alike, standing as an earthen representation of the ancient hunter-gatherers who engineered one of the most remarkable prehistoric monuments in the Americas. It wasn't for another 2,000 years or so that something even comparable in size and complexity was erected in North America. But starting around 1000 AD, a settlement known as Cahokia stood as the largest and most complex pre-Columbian archaeological site north of Mexico, representing the pinnacle of Mississippian culture. Located near present-day St. Louis, Missouri, Cahokia thrived between approximately 1050 and 1350, reaching a peak population between 10,000 and 20,000. This made Cahokia the largest urban center in North America at the time, surpassing the size of many contemporary European cities. The site occupies a prime location at the confluence of the Mississippi, Missouri, and Illinois rivers, giving Cahokia access to abundant resources and trade networks that stretched across much of the continent. This rich ecological setting allowed for intensive agriculture, particularly maize cultivation, which supported population growth and allowed it to develop beyond the size and scale of places like Poverty Point. Cahokia's most striking feature is its monumental earthen mounds, constructed by moving vast amounts of soil with baskets and simple tools. The largest of these, Monk's Mound, is the largest prehistoric earthen structure in the Americas, rising to a height of over 100 feet and covering more than 14 acres at its base. Monk's Mound likely served as the ceremonial and political center of the city, with a large structure or temple at its summit. In total, Cahokia contained over 120 mounds of varying shapes and sizes, including platform mounds, conical burial mounds, and ridgetop mounds. These earthworks reveal a highly organized labor force capable of executing large-scale public works over many generations. The sheer scale of Cahokia's construction projects speaks to a centralized authority and a society capable of mobilizing resources at an unprecedented level. The city's layout was meticulously planned, with a large central plaza flanked by mounds and surrounded by a palisade wall, constructed from thousands of wooden posts. This defensive structure suggests the possibility of conflict between neighboring or distant cultures. Additionally, Cahokia features a series of wooden circles, known as woodhenge, believed to have functioned as solar calendars, further demonstrating the society's astronomical knowledge and ceremonial sophistication. Socially, Cahokia appears to have been highly stratified, with elites residing on platform mounds and commoners occupying nearby residential areas. Artifacts such as copper plates, marine shell ornaments, and finely crafted pottery found at the site reflect a thriving artisan class and trade connections reaching as far as the Gulf Coast and Great Lakes. Similar to Poverty Point, the reasons for Cahokia's decline remain a topic of debate among archaeologists. Factors such as environmental degradation, resource depletion, or social unrest hinted by the Palisades may have contributed to its eventual abandonment. However, Cahokia's legacy represents the less romanticized but undoubtedly complex architecture of early North American societies. It reshaped our understanding of pre-Columbian civilizations and their capacity for urban planning, social organization, and monumental architecture. The Americas are littered with diverse examples of monumental architecture, and we still don't know the specifics as to how many of them were built, especially that mortarless masonry of the Inca. That said, to truly understand the forces that drove their construction, we must consider a common theme: the role of religion and storytelling in motivating these people. For a deeper dive into traditional, non-Western religions, make sure you check out my video on animism on the screen. It will give you a better understanding of how many of these belief systems may have emerged. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious.